I'm Peg DuBois in Plymouth area. On behalf of our league, I would like to warmly welcome our candidates, audience members, and online viewers to the 2025 Wayzata School Board Candidate Forum. I am truly excited for tonight's discussion and grateful to the candidates for their commitment to our schools and community by running for an elected office, and thankful to the audience for your participation. It truly makes a difference. The League of Women Voters is a 105-year-old volunteer organization dedicated to encouraging informed and active participation in government by increasing understanding of major public policy issues and influencing public policy through education and advocacy. As a nonpartisan organization, the League does not support or oppose any candidate or party. The views expressed tonight are those of the candidates alone. Our purpose in sponsoring this forum is to provide you with an opportunity to hear directly from the candidates about issues that matter to you, as questions tonight have been submitted by the public. To maintain a fair and respectful, nonpartisan environment, please do not display or distribute campaign literature, buttons, signs, t-shirts in this room during the forum. We'd also like you to please silence all of your electronic devices at this time. And now I am pleased to introduce the moderator of tonight's forum, Patty Robles, a member of the League of Women Voters, Brooklyn Park, Osseo, and Maple Grove League, and she is a resident of Brooklyn Park. So, Patty?
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. Tonight's forum is provided to give you the opportunity to learn about the candidates running for one of 3 open seats on the Wayzata School Board. There is never enough time to cover all the issues in a setting such as this. If your question was not addressed, feel free to contact the candidate directly. The League of Women Voters posts complete, unedited recordings of its forums. Editing is authorized only for official media reporting. Only the full, unedited recording may be used by other persons and organizations. The rules for this evening's forum are as follows. Candidates will be allowed an opening statement with the maximum of 1 minute to state their experience, platform, and objectives. A question and answer period will follow the opening statements. The answers will be confined to 1 minute unless designated by the moderator. Opening statements will be given in alphabetical order, and questions will be answered in a rotating order. A 15-second warning, check out your timers there, will be given to the candidates. Candidates, please finish your sentence quickly when you see the stop sign, or you will be interrupted. I will let you finish your sentence, though. The candidates will also be given a 2-minute closing statement. No reference of a personal nature will be tolerated. A person's public record may be examined, but not their character. This forum is made available to encourage the voting public to focus on the issues and not on personalities. We ask that there be no demonstration of support or opposition to the candidates or their positions, and that candidates be allowed their full time to get their points across. It's such a limited time. The public has been encouraged to submit questions online in advance of this forum. For those in the audience, if you have a question, write it on a 3x5 card available from our volunteers and raise your hand to have it picked up. Audience questions will be taken for the first 30 minutes of the forum. The timekeeper will alert the moderator when 30 minutes has elapsed. Questions that are unclear, hostile, or of a personal nature will not be used. Those that fall in the same general area may be consolidated. The candidates running for one of 3 seats of the Wayzata Independent District 284 School Board are Laura Conway, Julie Joseph, Heidi Cater, Kate Knight, Alicia Little, and Milind Sohoni. All candidates were invited to participate in the forum tonight. Candidate Julie Joseph is unable to attend, but has asked that the moderator read her opening statement, which we'll do when her time comes up. As stated in our candidate participation policy, we will proceed with other candidates in alphabetical order with opening statements. And we're going to start first with Laura Conway.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, and to my fellow candidates for being here tonight. My name is Laura Conway, and I'm a mom with 3 young kids just starting their journey in Wayzata schools. I began my career as a city prosecutor, standing up for the public when they needed protection. Later, I built a nonprofit animal rescue and saved thousands of lives. There were times I had to stand up and say what needed to be said, and others when the best path was to listen and build trust. Those experiences shaped the values that guide me now: advocacy, collaboration, equity, and respect. As a parent and a candidate, I believe every child deserves a safe, supportive school, and every family deserves a board that listens and represents their values. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I will read the opening statement of Julie Joseph. Good evening. My name is Julie Joseph. Though I cannot be with you tonight due to a long-planned work trip, there was no opportunity to join virtually. I am grateful for this chance to share my vision with you. For more than 14 years, Plymouth has been home to my family. I'm the proud mom of 2 sons in Wayzata schools, the daughter of educators, and a longtime volunteer. I've always been deeply engaged in our schools as a volunteer, a parent, and a neighbor, but this year feels different. Delayed funding has created uncertainty in our classrooms. Crowded schools are straining teachers and families. Mental health concerns are rising, and now our superintendent has announced his retirement. I realize this is not a time to sit on the sidelines. The urgency is real, and the cost of waiting is high. I bring the heart of a parent and the skills of a leader, 15 years of solving complex problems, building partnership, and leading through change. And those are the very skills our school board needs now. That's why I created the SAFE priorities. I'm unable to finish her statement. Next is Heidi Cater.
Hello, everyone. I'm Heidi Cater. First, thank you to the League of Women Voters and the City of Plymouth for hosting, and to everyone here and who's watching at home. I'm coming to you as an incumbent with a 22-year track record of community leadership, and I am seeking re-election to the Wayzata Public Schools School Board. I'm the proud daughter of immigrants and a graduate of Wayzata schools. I continue to be in the thick of it, just like all of you. Being in the sandwich generation is my greatest joy and has made me stronger than I ever thought possible. I'm mom to my 3 spirited and impressive young men, 2 at the high school and 1 still in elementary school. Over the course of my term, I've achieved increased levels of leadership, and with that comes influence. I've been vice chair of the board for the past 2 years and have chaired several committees of the board. I've developed strong professional relationships across the district, state, and city because it takes all of those to bring the best to our children. I'm an established clinical trials professional, have taught as an adjunct professor at 2 local universities, and I have a master's in public health.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Kate Knight.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kate Knight. Also would like to thank the League of Women's Voters and all of the candidates up here. It takes a lot of courage to get up and do this, and so just appreciate everybody's willingness to serve. As mentioned, I'm Kate Knight, a proud parent of 4 Wayzata educated children and a nonpartisan, results-driven leader. I'm running for school board because our schools need leaders who listen, collaborate, and take effective action. With over 20 years of leadership in Fortune 50 senior executive roles, also service on the Interfaith Outreach and Community Partners Board, I know how to govern with transparency and accountability. Good governance builds community confidence, supports our students' success, and ensures wise use of taxpayer resources. My career has always been about solving complex problems and bringing people together to make aligned decisions. And that's the only way I think we can make real progress for Wayzata students and our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Alicia Little.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's candidate forum and for your dedication to democracy. As a voter, I've always found the resources you provide to be thoughtful, thorough, and a necessary piece of my own election research. My name is Alicia Little, and I believe in the power of public education. As a first-generation college student raised by a resilient single mom, I know that it takes a village to raise our children, and public schools are the key partner to their success. I've always had a passion for working with children, and pursuing a career as a pediatric occupational therapist has been a fulfilling way to support their growth and development. Working in a variety of schools with students pre-K through high school highlights what research has repeatedly shown. Early intervention leads to better outcomes. When our family moved to Plymouth shortly before my oldest started kindergarten, I was immediately drawn to volunteering and supporting our schools however I could. Now, after over a decade of involvement in our PTAs, the district liaison committee, legislative conventions, and more school dances, field trip chaperoning, fundraising, and classroom parties than I can count, I'd love to have a bigger impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Melinda Sahoni.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. My name is Dr. Milind Sohoni, and I'm running for re-election to our school board. I believe every child in our community deserves the chance to grow and thrive. As a parent of 2 children who graduated from Wayzata and serving 4 years on the school board, the last 2 years as chair, I have seen firsthand both the challenges and the incredible potential in our schools. On the board, I have worked hard to keep students at the center of every decision. We have strengthened academic opportunities, supported our teachers, and been careful stewards of taxpayer dollars. I'm especially proud of our progress in making our schools more welcoming and inclusive, while addressing the real challenges of enrollment and funding. I'm committed to listening, leading with integrity, and making sure every student has the tools to succeed in college, career, and life. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now start the questions, and you will be answering in a rotating order. You will have 1 minute. Let me know if you need a question repeated, and I'll go ahead and let you know ahead. For example, question 1, we're going to start with Kate Knight, and then Alicia Little and Heidi Cater will be after Kate. Question 1, what do you consider to be the most important duties of a school board member?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the most important role of the school board is setting strategic direction, stewarding resources responsibly, holding the administration accountable, and offering collaborative counsel. I think in this next term, the other important thing a school board will have to do is hire a new superintendent, and we thank Dr. Chase Anderson for his years of service. The board oversees and hires a superintendent, and I think this obviously is a top priority. One thing I wanted to mention is I would never join a board with my own agenda. And so I think the board's job is to make sure they're focused on the strategic priorities, helping the administration, teachers, staff, parents, families provide input, and then make the best decisions possible for the decision at hand.
Thank you. Alicia Little?
Would you mind repeating the question again?
Not a problem. What do you consider to be the most important duties of a school board member?
I think a lot of the things that Kate highlighted, but also I really want to see a board that is working together to come to an agreement and decisions in a very thoughtful manner. Obviously, the governance is a huge piece, but I think being able to listen to community input, to come back to each other, to follow the protocols that we need to for governance is a really good way to be thoughtful and to make sure that we're showing the community that we're listening to them, but we're also not making any rash decisions. Obviously, yes, hearing that Chase is retiring was sad news for our district, but also means we have an incredible challenge ahead of us of making sure that we find someone who is able to lead on with all of the wonderful things that he's started for our district and continue to lead us into even increased excellence.
Thank you. Next is Heidi Cater, and then Melinda Sahoni, and then Laura Conway. Heidi Cater.
This is a great question, and I feel like I have so much to say, having been on the board for 4 years. We're the bridge between our school community and the administration, and that requires a lot of partnership and constant collaboration, constant conversations. And I will tell you, to the annoyance of my 3 boys, what a 10-minute grocery run can turn into half hours or an hour, because there's so many discussions that happen just as you're going through your day-to-day life. Another point that's really important is that if you're doing this job right, you are spending an extraordinary amount of time doing this job, because it's on your mind quite a bit, and it's constantly in your everyday motions. There's committee meetings, there's regular meetings, there's work sessions, there's discussions, there's coffees. You should look at my calendar and you'll know how important school boarding is to me. The next point is governance, and that means to have a really long-term view of the health of our district so that we're able to serve students today and in the long run. It's not just about today, we're talking about 15 years, 20 years out.
Thank you. Malin Sahoni?
Yeah, 4 years ago when I was elected on the school board, it was like a little baby thrown into the swimming pool. I think I've learned to swim, hopefully, in the last 4 years. So what I've learned is that the board's role is a governance role and leadership role. It is not management. It also sets policies, oversees our district's budget, curriculum, and physical facilities. That is the board's role. It sets the vision and strategic direction for the district in collaboration with the superintendent that the board hires. So it's a high-level view of the district that the board looks at and helps the administration bring to fruition their operational plan without, actually meddling with what the administration wants to do.
Thank you. Laura Conway?
So I think the board of the role, as many others have said, is largely governance, setting policies that align with the vision of the district. One of the biggest tasks ahead will be hiring a superintendent, and Chase has been amazing. We are grateful for all of your years of service. Budget oversight is very important, and also bridging the gap between the schools and the community. I think the board could be very engaged in the community and bring that feedback back to working with everyone. I think that meddling too much in day-to-day operations of the schools as a board could slow progress. So I don't think that that's what our role is. I think that it's more oversight from a high level. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 2, and the order is going to be Alicia Little, Kate Knight, Lynn Sahoni. The question is, please describe ways you have found to collaborate successfully with people who have different views than yours. Alicia Little?
I think if you are in any sort of volunteer or leadership role, which I have taken on a lot over the years, you're going to come up against people that have different opinions. That's just the rule of the game. And honestly, that's what makes things interesting and ultimately leads to a better result, in my opinion. I think there have been, if I'm trying to think of one specific example, it's hard to come to that right away. But I would say I know when I did take over, actually, I had to create a whole new board, basically, or I was part of becoming a whole new board at Kimberly Land Elementary for PTA, and we had heard that there was a really great multicultural event that used to occur, and it sort of had fallen off, and so we had decided as a board we wanted to reinvigorate that. And I think we had some people that maybe thought a carnival would be more fun, and taking all the different feedback from everyone, and actually we made it into a full week event, ended up meeting the needs of everyone who was at the table, I think, and it ended up being a great success we continued on with.
Thank you. Kate Knight?
Sure. My career spanning 20 years at a Fortune 50 company as well as other places is all around building future-facing strategies, bringing people together, elevating the status quo, and navigating complex topics. That's literally what my job was. And so whether it was deciding what we were going to do from a budget perspective, how we would resource new initiatives, hiring high-performing executives, we were constantly forced to bring people together and navigate these topics. Especially over the past 5 years, I think there have been very complex topics coming into whether it's schools, organizations, or large companies. And the way I would do that is listen, get input, use data, and then bring people together to make effective and efficient decisions. Once the decisions were made, we're expected to align to those and keep moving on as a group.
Thank you. We're going to go with Malin Sahoni next, and then it'll be Laura Conway and Heidi Cater.
Thank you. So when I was elected 4 years ago, I was elected by, I kind of reported to 75,000 plus residents of the district. So I owe it to every one of them. They are all my constituents. I owe it to every one of them to listen to them and make my decisions based on information I gather. The school board and the administration are two cogs of the wheel, but there are other cogs as well. It's a wheel with many, many cogs, including teachers, staff, students. But all decisions have to be made with students at the center of those decisions. Student outcome is the most important thing. So I listen. I believe I'm a good listener. I just took a strengths finder test last weekend, and the number one strength that it spitted out was that I was a good listener. So I listen, digest the data, and based on, similar to what Kate said, I make my decisions based on data and being informed.
Thank you. Laura Conway?
Can you please repeat the question?
Bet. Please describe ways that you have found to collaborate successfully with people who have different views than yours.
So I think that a lot of my life, I've had a lot of experiences doing this, starting personally with my 2 children that are always fighting. I'm really good at refereeing them. That's a lot of experience, but also professionally, building a nonprofit animal rescue in the state of Texas and just being an attorney in Texas and a city prosecutor, there were a lot of situations that made me uncomfortable. There were a lot of people that were a lot different from me. And over that time, I learned to have patience and not judge people. And doing that and listening and respecting people, even if you disagree at the end of the day, produces a different result because people walk out still feeling respected, and it's about establishing trust in that relationship. So I think that's one of my biggest strengths, actually. Thank you.
Thank you. Heidi Cater?
So I think that you have to start with your goal, right? I think that you have to define what your goal is, because there are going to be, many times people are coming at an issue and wanting the best thing for moving forward. And so if you sit down and define your goal, then it's much easier to find some common grounds instead of, taking opposing views from the very beginning. In my perspective, opposing views are not a problem. It's actually how the best idea and the best approach emerges. So if you sit down and truly listen, find common ground, define your goal, and approach it in a kind of a systematic and smart way in a collaborative setting, then you're always going to find your best approach.
Thank you. For the next question, we're going to start out with Heidi Cater, Malin Sahoni, and then Laura Conway. If elected, specifically, what will be your top priorities and why? Heidi Cater?
Well, we've got a lot of work ahead of us. We have to hire a new superintendent, and that is going to be one of our most important jobs, because this is going to impact our district for what could be decades to come. So we have to make the right choice, and we have to be very smart about it, and we have to move forward in a collaborative way. I will keep saying that word, collaboration and partnership, over and over again, because it's a collaboration with our community, with our partners, with our experts. It's the best way for us to bring our students the best options that they can have. I also think that we need to continue pursuing operational excellence. If we want to reduce our class sizes, if we want to have new buildings, if we want to do great things for our kids, operational excellence is a way that we can be financially responsible and responsive. Another one of the things that we are going to have to keep looking forward to is we've potentially got a massive referendum.
Thank you.
And I'm done. There's so much to say.
Malin Sahoni.
Thank you. Yeah, we talked about
Your mic.
Sorry. Dr. Anderson, our superintendent, is retiring after 18 years of strong service to the district. So we cannot wait until after the elections. That work has to start now to look at a possible replacement. And I think he will have left big shoes to fill. So without a doubt, it'll be a very, very difficult challenge for the school board. So that's the first thing I would do. I would always keep the students at the center of all the decisions I make, striving for academic excellence, practicing transparency, building trust, supporting educators, and fostering equity and belonging. I think we have made a very strong commitment to equity, and we are moving along, although slowly, steadily, but we are still moving forward. The biggest challenges I see and the priorities I look at if I'm elected in the future would be sustainable funding, classroom space, and referendum for that is coming up, and reducing class sizes are the top of my priorities.
Thank you. Laura Conway?
I think that one of the first things that I would have to do as a new board member is listen and learn and see what are the priorities of the current board. That being said, safe and supportive schools right now, I think, are at the top of everyone's mind with what happened not long ago at Annunciation. That felt so close to home. So safety is a top priority for me. That also means the mental health of children and students too. I think that for funding, I know that there are budget pressures that will be present, but protecting teachers in the classroom and that funding is most important. And lastly, I think it's really important to be transparent and engage with the community and translate that feedback into action. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Knight?
Sure. I would, number one, obviously hiring the superintendent. Number two, I would ensure that we have an effective and high-functioning board so that our administrators can focus on academic excellence for all students. I think the world is complex and divisive, and we need to make sure they're focused and aligned on the most important priorities for the organization, which means the board needs to be focused and aligned on what we're getting done. With that, I'd say number three, ensuring that we get really clear on what the top priorities are and that we resource and fund those accordingly so we can start seeing progress against goals and metrics that we have set.
Thank you. Alicia Little?
My decision to even pursue this has really come out of a desire to want to add something that I feel like is currently missing from our board, and that is a background in education and special education more specifically. I know we have families coming specifically to this district to have excellent academic achievement and have a wonderful experience, and I want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of every single student in the district, regardless of where they fall on the spectrum, whether that's gifted and talented, whether that's due to various resources that we should be able to access for them. Technology use is also a personal passion, and it's probably good my kids aren't here to hear this, but I want to make sure we're being careful with the technology use in our schools. I know we've all gone to, we've got our iPads, and it's something we all have to think about at home with safety, but I want to make sure we're using that as an enhancement to the way that we're educating students and not a replacement. Make sure we're still doing multimodal sensory learning with our kids in the classrooms, and I'm seeing pieces of that, but I think it's something I'd like to pursue.
Thank you. And my apologies for not allowing letting you know the last two, when you were going to be going. But our question number 4, we're going to start with Malind Sahoni, Laura Conway, Alicia Little. With the recent school shooting in Minneapolis, school safety is again a major concern. What actions would you support to increase safety in our schools beyond the safety and security measures currently in place? Malind Sahoni.
Yes, thank you. It obviously was a very sad thing, and this is something that is prevalent throughout the country, and it makes me very, very sad. I come from a country where guns were really not allowed anywhere, other than the cops. The police were the only ones that had cops. It makes me sad that children are now the targets of those shootings. We have security in place in the schools. We work with SROs. We also need a culture change of education for the public, for the children. We also need to put safety mechanisms in place, which I believe we have, but there is more to do. And I just don't know how much more we have to do to stop all this, because I just become very emotional when I think of that. The Annunciation school shooting was horrible.
Thank you. Laura Conway.
Yeah, I echo that. I remember when my sister-in-law texted me about it, and I even considered homeschooling. I have a 5-year-old, and kissing her goodbye and letting her walk out the door and knowing that something like that could happen is absolutely my worst nightmare. It's one of the reasons that motivated me to run for the school board. I think that when we talk about safety, we have to talk about more than just physical safety. I recognize Wayzata has done a good job of working with the Plymouth Police Department and doing things to make the school as safe as possible, but we need to harden entrances, and then we need to also talk about expanding our mental health services. This means having counselors that are maybe more proactive in reaching out to students and having relationships with adults for the students where they feel comfortable enough to go talk to them in maybe like an early warning system. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Alicia Little.
Unfortunately, this is something that has been going on for ever since I've had children, so I tend to maybe be a little too aware of it. I think any parent is, and especially living close to a community school like I do, I can't tell you how many times I hear an ambulance siren or, police, and you just kind of stop and pause and make sure it's not stopping at this school, and that's not a way to live. But I think there are things that we can do differently, in addition to things that the district have done to make our buildings safe and secure. Working with Moms Demand Action, I do believe in their Be Smart program, which is giving more direct information to families and students about securing guns and gun safety, what to do if you come across a gun. I don't think it's something that we just don't talk about and hope it doesn't happen. I think we have to be more proactive than that. Early identification and intervention is really important. One thing that was shared with me from a high school student actually was, we all have on our ID to call 988, and we know that, there's posters everywhere. If you see something, say something, but they would actually like to have more.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks. Next, we're going to go to Heidi Cater and then Kate Knight.
Can I
Heidi?
ask you to repeat the question?
You bet. I'm just going to do the question part.
Sure.
What actions would you support to increase safety in our schools beyond the safety and security measures currently in place?
Thank you. So I will say that I know Wayzata is already doing a lot. They can't necessarily disclose everything that they're doing for safety reasons. It's to keep our kids safe, that they're not able to express everything that's happening in the schools so that, people don't know how to get around those actions. And I know the other point is, I know it's often said that we have to balance a welcoming environment with safety. And to a certain extent, I disagree with that, because I think that we can have both. I think it's really important that we lean into how do we find ways that we can make it extraordinarily safe and bubbled up. Like if I could bubble up my kids in bubble wrap, that's what I would do. And I want to do it for your kids too. And so I think there are ways that we can do that without making it look scary. Oh, I have so much to say, 15 seconds. One of our biggest successes is bringing back our SROs into our schools. And the reason that it's important to have SROs is from a preventative perspective. It creates relationships between our students and SROs, and it makes them
Thank
stronger
you.
for it within our community. Sorry.
Thank you. Kate Knight.
Sure, thanks. And obviously, like everyone said, our hearts go out, and we would never wish that upon anybody. To the point, I think each of my kids has told me at one point that they're afraid of going somewhere for fear of being injured in a situation like that, which is terrible. As it relates to what the board can do, I would expect that this would be a top priority within the strategic plan. Within that, I would then ask for updates from the administration on what are the parameters in place today. To Heidi's point, all of those can't be shared. We would then need to understand what advances or different changes would need to be made to keep our kids more safe, what the budgets are associated with that as well. And then I'd say the board should decide on that with the administration. So from what can actually be impacted and changed from a board perspective, that would be holding the administration accountable for the changes to be made.
Thank you. Just a note, 30 minutes has elapsed, ending the time for new questions from the audience. So we'll proceed with our next question. Question 5, and we're going to start with Laura Conway, Malind Sahoni, Alicia Little. Mental health, which has been a big topic also that relates to school safety. Mental health is a growing concern across the country and in our schools. How would you suggest our district address the growing mental health needs of our students? Laura Conway.
So when I met with the Wayzata Spotlight Group, which is high school students, the one thing I did hear from them was that they kind of felt like the burden was on them at times to reach out to a counselor or a social worker if they were in need. I think that there could be a more proactive approach with kids where there are counselors or social workers that have structured meetings or times that they check in with kids. I think that belonging and kindness are core values of Wayzata, and emotional health is integral to academic success for every student. So I think this is one of the most important topics. And I also want to give credit and just say our teachers are a big part of this solution. And we have amazing teachers in this district, and the relationships that they build with the students, I think, is a part of the mental health success.
Thank you. Malin Sahoni?
Oh, thank you. There is no doubt that mental health is one of the biggest issues that we are facing, not just in schools, but in society as well. So it's something that we definitely have to focus on in schools, and that is something that comes under the special education category. And my position would be that I would try my best to advocate for more funding, not just from the local taxes, but also from state taxes, from the federal government, because we do not get enough funding from that category, and then we are required to subsidize that from our general fund. So that cross subsidy is killing us. There are constraints, obviously. There are so many other things that need to be funded. So the priorities are the ones that I think I'm looking for from the legislators, lawmakers, to provide more funding for the school districts.
Thank you. Alicia Little?
Well, this question worked out perfect, whoever wrote it, because I got cut off, so I'll finish because it blends right into it. We know that mental health is something that so many of us are facing, and I think that comes from a host of areas. We live in a really stressful world. I think we do a really good job, especially at the younger level, of having social emotional curriculum. But also, yes, in meeting with some high school students, it was sort of said, it would be really nice to maybe do breakout sessions about when is the time to call, because we all have tough times. We all have our friends going through tough times, but we don't know if this is like worth calling that hotline or if this is just something that they're going to get a good night's sleep and move on. So I think making sure that we're keeping that in mind, that we might need to give some more direct instruction and do a little bit more time with that. Really happy to see that we got funding for more counselors. Really unhappy to see that funding now has been cut for the amount of time we thought we were going to have it. So we need more support in our buildings, and that comes from direct federal legislation. So we need to work on that.
Thank you. Next is Kate Knight, and then Heidi Cater. Kate Knight?
Yeah, I think obviously mental health, like Alicia was saying, is a huge problem, and we have all experienced it. I think especially since the pandemic, we've seen kind of a shifting in that mindset and the problems associated with it. I think it's also so complex because it is so personal at the individual level. And so when I think about huge complex problems, unknown resolution towards it, one of the things that I always try to back up and think through is like, what problem are we actually trying to solve? What resources are we putting against it? And are we making the progress we need to see? When I hear like, let's increase funding or let's shift it, I would want to make sure, like to Alicia's point, that it was on the things that we felt would have the biggest impact for the problems that we're trying to solve within the school. One of the other things, and I'll go off of what Laura said before, something I need to do as a new board member too, if elected, would be to learn. And this is not one of my areas of expertise, and so I would expect to learn in this way.
Thank you. Our next question, we're going to start with Kate Knight, Laura Conway,
I
Heidi.
didn't get a chance to.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, actually, Heidi Cater, we would like to hear from you. Thank you very much.
So this is the first year that we have counselors in every building, and Alicia, as you said, the funding got cut. And so this is something that we're going to have to struggle with as a district when it comes to the finances, because counselors are not inexpensive, but they are incredibly important. I sat in a PTA meeting where a mom actually teared up because she was so happy that there was finally one counselor in every single school. And so I'm not ready to give that up, but I'm willing to go to the Capitol to advocate for that over and over and over again. I also think that we need to approach this from a comprehensive view. It is not just in school that we're having mental health concerns. We need to approach this just like we approach any other physical issue, and we need to make sure that our teachers are properly trained in order to pick up on the early signs where they can be the communicator between home, right? Because education is a partnership between home and school. And so when our teachers are properly trained to pick up on those signs, they can help advocate for their students.
Thank you. Now we'll go to the next question. And we're going to start with Kate Knight, Laura Conway, and Heidi Cater. A bill to require student representation on the school board was introduced in the state legislature this past session. What are your views on adding 2 non-voting student representatives to the Wayzata School Board? Kate Knight.
Yeah, this was also asked in my student forum interview as well. The topic that we talked about in that interview, and I've seen this through my career in different experiences at work where we try to add a younger team member into a board situation. I go back again to what problem are we trying to solve and what do we expect the outcome of this to be? The thing I said to the students in that is, you know, impacting 2 students for the outcome of learning for them, not sure if that's the best thing. I'm all for learning, all for student learning, but if we're focused on academic excellence, is this the best way to get at it from a broad scale? So again, I'm all for learning, but I would want us to be focused and aligned on what problem are we trying to solve by adding a student board member onto the board, and is that helping us from an overall strategic plan perspective?
Thank you. Laura Conway.
I would want to know if one thing that they talked about at the work session that I attended about this, about adding a student representative, was kind of what Kate alluded to, is with the demand of what Wayzata high school students have already between extracurricular activities and academics, is it healthy and is there time? If that is possible, I would agree to having a student representative on the board, because I think all of the decisions the board makes should be centered and based on what's best for the student. And I feel like there's nobody better to tell us about their daily experiences than the students themselves and what their daily lives are like at Wayzata.
Thank you. Next, Heidi Cater, Alicia Little, and then Malin Sahoni. Heidi Cater.
So I don't know, Patty, if you mentioned this, but there was a bill that was proposed in the last legislative session, but it didn't pass. And I do think that was the right thing, because it's one of those situations where local control is really important. And as a school board member, I find local control to be very, very important in everything we do. Every district has different needs, and so we all need to make our own decisions independently. I actually think this is not a question about 2 students. I want to think bigger than that. This is about student voice and student agency in my mind. And if we think about it in such a confined way about just 2 students, we're missing a whole lot more bigger opportunities to engage our full student population. And that's really what I want to do. Just like I represent over 75,000 constituents, I also want to hear from our full student population. There's so much to consider here, and one of the biggest things that I want to consider is we have a kind of a forward movement of making sure that our kids are in school, and how are we going to do that if they're in our meetings?
Alicia Little.
So my understanding is there are a lot of districts that are already doing this. I think there's a lot of ways to do it, and that would be my question as a board member, is understanding how can we get more student involvement on the board, and whether that is a group of students, if that's a rotating situation. I was really happy to hear actually a local student board that's, you know, a student representative that's working in Hopkins was explaining that their high schoolers are going into elementary and middle school buildings, and they're actually building that into their curriculum and gathering information at all levels. And I just think it's a really great way to hear directly from the kids that we're saying are the first priority to us in this district. We don't really know what we don't know. And I've learned as a parent, especially now having a high schooler, that some kids are talking and telling you all the things. I do kind of have those. But also a lot of parents are not hearing from their kids, and they don't know exactly what's maybe missing or what they're wanting to highlight. So I think it could be a really beautiful thing. I just think we would need to be thoughtful about how we go about it.
Thank you. Malind Sahoni.
Thank you. My microphone usually on. Yeah, so we had a work session in, I think, late August for this specific topic. I strongly believe that having a student on the school board is basically listening to their voice. As far as one student or two students being representative of the entire school district at the board table, it's similar to us being a representative of 75,000 students. We can't have constituents. We can't have 75,000 constituents sitting at this table, at the board table. That's why they elect us to be their representative, their voice. We had MSBA, the Minnesota School Boards Association, the parent organization that helps school districts attend that meeting. We had a Hopkins School Board member and a student. And I think the questions back and forth from the board colleagues of mine was the most important thing. It's something that they need information on and then decide.
Thanks. Question number 7, we're going to start with Alicia Little, Kate Knight, and then Heidi Cater. If elected, how will you engage teachers, families, students, and community members in the upcoming superintendent selection? Alicia Little.
In as many ways as possible. I don't know what I don't know yet about being on the board and exactly what I will be able to do, but I think as much as we can hear from our community members, our staff, and our students and hear what's important to them, it's always going to be a priority for me. I think it's really important to understand that, teachers are there day in and day out. I think it's really important when looking at a superintendent to know that they have education in their blood. I think it's a special thing. It's different than a lot of different jobs or roles that people take on in their life. And I think I'd want to hear directly from teachers what they feel like is going to be the most important and hear that. I also think the same about community. Parents are going to have opinions and thoughts about what we need for the vision of Wayzata, and I think I'm willing and open to hearing all of that.
Thank you. Kate Knight.
Sure. So as someone who's hired many high-performing executives, my expectation is we would retain a search firm and potentially have a task force that gets put on this very important topic to determine who our next superintendent is. The task force, I would assume, would be made up of community members and teachers and et cetera. And so the way I would pull them in is, I think just by default, I'm a connector. I'm in the community. I'm talking to people, whether at events, volunteer, church, or community meetings. I'm open-minded, straightforward. People come to me to tell me what's on their mind because they know I'll take action. And so I think, obviously, this is a very important decision. We would want a lot of community input from teachers, staff, administration, students, et cetera. But it has to be done in a pretty contained way so that we can make a decision and move with some type of speed before kind of the timing of that runs out.
Thank you. Heidi Cater, Malin Sahoni, and then Laura Conway. Heidi Cater.
So Kate, that's probably exactly how it's going to go in my opinion as well. We're going to seek out a search firm to do this. And they will work closely with the board in order to get the candidates that we need in. From there will likely be plenty of task force and meetings. I think something that has worked in the past for this district is that we had, and Dr. Anderson, you can probably speak to this at some point, but we had community meetings where Dr. Anderson was in a school and the community was able to go and meet him, and the board was able to see how he interacted with people in our community. And I think that's a really important thing. It's not just about having the task force and having, these input sessions, but really seeing how this person is going to interact within our community. It's a really important thing to have it be done in a grassroots way, in a very authentic way, because we're looking for an educational leader. And so when our teachers come into those spaces and that person is in the spaces with them, we can really see how it'll work.
Melinda Sahoni.
Could you repeat the questions?
You bet. If elected, how will you engage teachers, families, students, and community members in the upcoming superintendent solution?
Well, as I said earlier, that process has already started, so I don't have to wait to be reelected. If I do, then, if at that point we are looking at a stage in the process, then obviously I would want transparency. I would want the community input. As I said earlier, 75,000 residents is the number we report to. Similarly, the superintendent, I think, owes it to the 75,000 residents of the district. So it is in our best interest to have the community involved, teachers, staff, students even. The process in this case is slightly different from many other decisions that we make. Most of these decisions will have to be made in a public meeting where everybody can watch what we are doing. The interviewing process, the selection process itself, it's all going to be very open and very transparent, and I think that's the way it should be. Thank you.
Laura Conway.
So as Alicia stated, I would have to listen and learn first. I have never hired a superintendent before. So, but the reason I'm running is because I want to hear from the community and be an advocate for you. I don't have preconceived notions. I don't know what I don't know. And I want to hear from people specifically what they would desire in a superintendent. I think there's a lot of different structured ways that you could do this, setting up advisory councils, both student and parent and teacher. It takes all of us together, having surveys that go out, having different forms of communication, whether it be social media. I think that finding ways for people to have a voice in the community and affect actual policies with that is what's really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to start with Melinda Sahoni, Heidi Cater, and Alicia Little. How do you suggest the district balance increased facility needs with future enrollment projections? Melinda Sahoni?
Can you repeat that again, please?
How do you suggest the district balance increased facility needs with future enrollment projections?
Thank you. Before I answer that question, I just want the audience to know that none of the board members currently on the board have ever had the experience of appointing a new superintendent. So we are all in the same boat. Dr. Anderson lasted 18 years, so that's a long time, and many boards have come and gone. But anyway, how do I balance the needs of the facilities? I think funding priorities are the most important thing that the board can look at and work on. Money has to be prioritized based on needs for the teachers, facilities, and a number of other things. So right now, I think the biggest issue that we face in terms of facilities needs is classroom space. And that directly relates to class sizes. Right now, we have class sizes that are creeping upwards, and in my opinion, they can be manageable. And with the referendum that we have, it will probably be possible.
Heidi Cater.
We do have increased facility needs, and we do have growing enrollment, which are two good things because that means our family is getting bigger. I would say that it's really important to start with teaching and learning. Everything that we do in this district is about teaching and learning, and that's where it all starts. So we start with understanding the curriculum and the teaching needs, because that's what our kids need, right? That's putting our kids at the center of every decision we make. I do believe that we're getting a little squeezy, and it's not a bad thing. We potentially may have one of the biggest referendums coming up in a few months on a ballot. And so it's going to be really important that we understand we need a deep understanding of what the enrollment needs actually are, because we may be looking at just a middle school, maybe a middle school and an elementary school, but we really need to dive into that before we jump forward with whatever the facility needs are. So it starts with the curriculum, starts with the students, starts with teaching and learning.
Alicia Little, and then Laura Conway and Kate Knight.
Do you mind repeating?
No problem. How do you suggest that the district balance increase facility needs with future enrollment projections?
When I think back, being here for 10 years now, I always say my now sophomore in high school was beginning kindergarten, and I think the year after is when we opened up a new elementary school. And a couple years later, another elementary school. We've gone through a lot of change. I personally have been impressed with how the district has managed that and handled that. I think COVID threw us for a little bit of a loop here because we have been in such a growth state, and then that sort of cut that for a little bit. So we'd probably be at a different place today if COVID would have never happened and our enrollment would have just continued up and up. I think now we're in a place where we know we need more space. We hear families saying we don't have enough, our classroom sizes are too big. We know at the middle school, especially the one that my children attends, we have a lot of hormones in one building. So we need a little more space, and we're looking at that. I know the district is working hard at bringing a referendum potentially to the taxpayers. So I think, I trust that our district is going to be really thoughtful about how they do this.
Thank you. Laura Conway?
So I feel like this parallels something in my last profession. We built out an animal rescue and rehabilitation center, and that took a lot of long-term strategic planning. Getting supporters involved early and explaining the why. Why do we need this? Why do we need this referendum? Why do we need more space? How does it affect learning? Having them know about the process and why this is so critical will ensure that the referendums will be passed, will ensure that they will be behind us and supporting us in asking for these resources. I also think it's important to bring in experts and rely on data and, again, community engagement. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Kate Knight?
Sure. So my background in strategic planning is all about building business cases or new opportunity options for organizations with imperfect information. And that's really hard to do because you like to think you have the right information, but you really just never know. To Alicia's point about COVID, you never know what's going to happen. So in that instance, and since I put my name in for school board, I've been able to ask a lot of these questions, whether to the administration or the head of finance. And I really do like the way that they go about it because they're looking at a lot of different data points. They're triangulating them to come to a range of outcomes or a set of scenarios. For instance, you could do a high, medium, low for what could happen in the future. I think they do a really good job at it. They have done it for many years. And so I think that approach really makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. For the next question, we're going to start with Heidi Cater, Alicia Little, and Laura Conway. If forced to cut the district budget in the face of declining revenues, what would be your strategy? Heidi Cater.
Well, the first thing I would do is stay away from our classrooms. As much as we can, we keep cuts away from our classrooms. We know that everything that we do is focused on our students, and it's going to be important to keep them at the top of our priority list, as always. They're always my North Star in every single decision that I make. I think about the ultimate question is always, is this what's best for students? And so that's my strategy, is to keep it away from our classrooms and to make sure that we are advocating and utilizing our monies in the smartest way possible. There's a long-term goal here in that if you are financially, and this gets to my operational excellence, if you are operating in an excellent way over the course of years, you've already you've trimmed it down, you've made sure that you are utilizing your dollars in the best way. You have a solid fund balance that can jump in when needs are tough.
Thank you.
There's my timer.
Alicia Little.
I agree. I think prioritizing teaching and learning is always going to be the first thing. We don't want to go there first. So consolidating and sharing services wherever else is possible to be able to cut some of the budget is always helpful. I do believe that legislative advocacy, that's not just for Wayzata, that's everywhere. We need to prioritize public education. We need to make sure that we are getting the funds that is needed to make sure that we are giving the education to our students that they deserve. I do feel like in our district, we're lucky because I think we've made some really thoughtful cuts over the years so that we're not doing an abrupt slash of things. I'm looking at other districts near us that are having to cut major programs and make major changes. And I think we've been I think we've been very thoughtful along the way. So we're still feeling that squeeze, but it's not as dramatic. And I just want to continue to be thoughtful about that moving forward.
Laura Conway, and then Malin Sahoni and Kate Knight.
Well, I know this is a topic that's affecting a lot of, besides the schools, people too right now. With inflation and rising costs, I know that the budget is an issue. I think that, like others said, what needs to be protected most is the classroom and teaching instruction. Also, special education that has always been underfunded needs to be protected and prioritized. I would maximize external revenue. I would try to find grants and partner with other local groups. I think it's important to have realistic budgeting and projections and strategic investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Malin Sahoni?
Thank you. I'm glad we have come out of that cost containment cycle after COVID. So Wayzata did a fantastic job in spite of the cost containment that we started out in, I think, 2022. And we have reached a point where the enrollment has increased quite a bit. And we are in a good spot right now. But it is always about priorities. I always believed that our district looks as good as it does, number one, because of the students. Number two, because of the teachers and the staff that trains them to be that good. So those two we have to keep top of mind. If we have to prioritize funding and we have to cut funds, I would stay away from, as much as possible, cutting staff, cutting teachers, cutting curriculum programs, and trim the fat.
Thank you. Kate Knight?
Yeah, I think you'll hear me kind of use the same set of disciplines and the same set of parameters in a lot of the questions I'm getting asked. It all comes back to planning cycles, prioritization, and making sure we're focused and aligned on the most important things. I'd say the most important things, similar to what others are saying, academic standards, well-being, and teacher development. It's hard to cut because there's no place that anyone actually wants to make a cut. But if you're focused and aligned on the most important priorities that give us the best chance at being a desirable place for you to put your kids in school, I think those are always the right places to focus.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to start with Kate Knight, Heidi Cater, and Malin Sahoni. How would you balance the opportunities and challenges of AI to ensure our schools use it in a way that is safe, fair, and effective for all students?
Will you repeat that one more time?
Sure. How would you balance the opportunities and challenges of AI to ensure our schools use it in a way that is safe, fair, and effective for all students?
Yeah, AI is obviously a huge topic. It's also new, which makes a lot of it very unknown. I had the opportunity of developing an AI strategy for the company I worked for over the past 14 years. And it's interesting because in a world of AI, we were actually at the OpenAI offices. In a world of AI, a question that was asked is, how do we differentiate in a world of AI when everyone can use the same models and algorithms and everything? And the answer from somebody there said, it's the heart. So from the heart of the people. And so it's the human factor that actually still is the differentiator in an AI world. The Walmart CEO just had an article in the Wall Street Journal talking about we put humans in front of humans. And I think the biggest thing we can do in an AI world is lean into it, understand it, and test and learn. You cannot stay away from it because it's already here, but we have to do it really smartly.
Thank you. Heidi Cater.
I see AI as a tool just like any other tool that we have. If you remember back when, before when we were doing research and we would actually have to go to the library and like print out articles and do the whole thing, once we had those electronically, well, it became easy to cut and paste and put those into your papers, and you could very easily plagiarize and nobody would know. Well, then we decided to have tools that help teachers to find out if you were plagiarizing. This is a tool, just like any other tool, and we need to lean into it, just like Kate is saying, because we can't run away from it. And as part of the education of our students, it's really important to lean in and teach them how to utilize things in a proper way. I will say I was really happy to see at Open House at the high school, they have developed a really great Wayzata specific continuum of how to use the AI technology and when it's appropriate to use. So they're already on the path of we need to jump into this and help our students figure out how to use it. And I will
Thank
tell
you. Whoops. Malin Sahoni, then Laura Conway, and Alicia Little. Malin Sahoni?
Yeah, so we talked about prioritizing funding in the last question, and I'm going to prioritize my time here a little bit because I forgot to mention I didn't have time to agree with Laura that special education funding is also very important. I would protect special education funding as well. So I am probably the least savvy among the five of us technologically. I am not advanced by any stretch of the imagination. But I do know that AI has opportunities and challenges at the same time. One of the challenges that I recently read about was the reading. We all know that the children struggle with reading and math, and there are schools now, districts that use AI to help in reading. There are two opinions on that. Apparently, it will help the kids to get better, but it will also make the kids lazy and really not understand the science of reading itself, and that is a concern of mine.
Thank you. Laura Conway.
So I agree that AI is here and that we need to lean into it in maybe a thoughtful way. I understand high schoolers needing this, but I don't think that we should integrate it as much as that in the elementary and middle school. I think that it's really important for young kids to have a foundation of fundamentals in math, reading, and critical thinking. And I think that AI could serve as almost a distraction from that. I actually, unfortunately, met with a mom last week who pulled her kids from Wayzata because of curriculum and because of these fundamentals that she felt like were not there at the elementary school. And I feel like if we start adding in more technology and AI, we're kind of getting more away from these very basic educational foundations that last with kids for their whole life, like reading and math and spelling. So I think that we can't get too lost in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Alicia Little.
I actually found it really interesting. I had the same thought, when dial-up internet started, we had to start realizing, what were reputable sources, what were not. And I know being at a open house for high school, I was seeing that capstone project in a social studies class is regularly happening. I think they're doing them every couple of weeks with various topics. And part of that is finding 4 different types of sources. And one of them are AI generated, and how to be able to learn what to look for, how to know what you're watching or reporting is actually coming from a reputable source. And so as much as I do want to be careful about technology use, I think this is an area that, yes, it's here to stay. So we want to help our kids, honestly, from somewhat of an early age, because I think it's really easy. We know the people in our lives who are sharing some videos or some post, and you're like, this isn't real. And we want to make sure we're setting our kids up for that so that it's not a shock to them and they're not getting themselves into dangerous situations.
Thank you. Next, we'll start with Laura Conway, Malin Sahoni, Alicia Little. How will you as a board member work to ensure that all students, including English language learners, students with disabilities, and those with special needs, have opportunities to succeed beyond test scores?
So this is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart and makes me think of a situation when I was in law school. I was a legal intern and represented a young mother who was poverty-stricken and deaf, and her children were taken by her partner out of the country. We filled the gap then, and I knew sign language, so I helped to represent her. And similar to law and other areas, I think the same should apply in school. If people need extra support and resources, those are the people that we need to make sure we're supporting. Everyone should have a fair shot, and we're not all starting from the same place. We don't know what we don't know, so I think it starts by talking to students and seeing where they're at and what they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Malin Sahoni,
Could you please repeat the question?
how will you as a board member, I'm going to shorten it.
Okay.
How will you as a board member work to ensure that all students have opportunities to succeed beyond test scores?
Yeah, I think this is at the heart of equity. Like Laura said, not everybody has the same capacity, the same capability, and special education students is one category where we we need to understand that we have to go beyond, over and beyond what we normally would do for other students to provide them opportunities because they have a need. They do not come from the same level of knowledge as the other students do. This is something that is I'm very passionate about, and what concerns me is that many times people think that with equity we are looking at equal outcomes, or equality is the same as equity, and it is not. Having said that, it is also not a zero-sum game. We are not trying to take away funding and other things from those who already have it to provide this for the students with disability.
Thank you. Alicia Little, and then Kate Knight and Heidi Cater. Alicia Little.
I think we all know that test scores are just a snapshot, and I know that some families, and I mean, rightly so, believe that they're pointless in some way, or it's something that is not worth it. Unfortunately, we know that funding is sometimes tied to those test scores, so it is important to know where our kids are landing. And so I think it's important that we're looking at teacher assessment outcomes and other ways of identifying students. But, with my background in OT, I think I'm always looking at the whole child or the whole person. And I've learned, there is no normal. We're all on a spectrum somewhere. And I think that that's so apparent in schools. We need to look at every single child, not just the ones that have a diagnosis. I think our system is set up a lot of times for our children to be almost failing before they're identified, and we want to do better than that. We want to have early intervention. We want to make sure we're helping kids with all the different spectrum. We know the needs are higher today than they ever have been before, and part of that is because we are doing a better job identifying, but then it puts the burden on us to
Thank you.
meet them all where they're at.
Kate Knight, and then Heidi Cater. Kate Knight.
Sure. As part of the district plan, there's also a document called the equity commitments, which I think does a good job outlaying what are the top priorities as we think about, Millen brought it up, equity, but to get to the true sense of does every student belong, right? You see it, the vision and the mission, it's academic excellence for all. And I think the equity commitments are the behaviors that are modeled, again, for all. I think that you could never just use a test score to determine someone's success. We all take tests differently, we learn differently. I think there's different, obviously types of learners, whether it's special education or, a student who does excel at test taking. I think we need to make sure, and I think Wayzata does a great job of having programs, whether it's student-led programs or mentor programs, but I do think we really need to make sure as those equity commitments are refreshed that we get more clear on
Thank you.
what especially is important.
Heidi Cater.
So our strategic roadmap runs through 2027, so it will be updated very soon. And as part of our vision, we have exceptional student learning experiences and relationships. And so I want to see that continue forward and grow. Two of our core values are collaboration and community. And I think for our students, that's incredibly important because test scores are important because that's how we know how our students are doing. And it's part of our core mission is teaching and learning. And we have to be able to figure out how our students are learning. Are there different ways that we can test? Absolutely. Are there different ways that we can figure out where our students are at? Absolutely, 100%. It doesn't have to be a sit down, write down test. There are different ways. However, I think that it's also really important to create an environment that your students want to come to every day and that they have ways that they can engage. Our sports and our activities are probably a reason that half of our students show up and do the work
Thanks.
every day.
Speaking of equity commitment, as the Wayzata schools serve more diverse populations, a couple things. This is our last question. And as the Wayzata schools serve more diverse populations, how will you ensure the schools are inclusive and welcoming to meet the aspirations of excellence for each and every student? We're going to start with Heidi Cater, Malin Sahoni, and Laura Conway. Heidi Cater.
Well, diversity is one of our greatest strengths. I think that we lean into it, and I think we welcome it and accept it and make it exciting. The way that we can make sure that we're meeting everybody's needs is that personalization. So as part of our tagline, it's each and every. And we have to be really committed to that personalization. It's not kind of looking at one group and pinning them one way or the other, but it's really looking at each student and their needs. It's not about boys versus girls. It's not about race versus culture, but it's really about each student and what they bring, because we have to look at our students from an asset framed mindset and see the things that they bring to us will make our schools stronger and better, and then how can we help them along and grow? That's what it's all about.
Thank you. Malin Sahoni.
Yeah, equity is about looking at and understanding that there are opportunity gaps. It's about removing barriers, whether it's access to advanced counselors or coursework, rather, technology or mental health resources. I would support data-driven decision-making to understand where opportunity and achievement gaps exist, and then invest in targeted supports. As I said earlier, it's not a zero-sum game, and we are not aiming for equal outcomes. We are providing the opportunity for students to thrive and get better at what they are doing. Equity isn't about lowering standards. It's about ensuring high expectations and success for all students, regardless of background. So it's not like bringing somebody down or bringing somebody up.
Thank you. Next, it's going to be Laura Conway, Kate Knight, and then Alicia Little. Laura Conway.
Can you repeat the question?
As the Wayzata schools serve more diverse populations, how will you ensure the schools are inclusive and welcoming to meet the aspirations of excellence for each and every student?
So I think first and foremost, one of the ways that Wayzata is open and welcoming to all students is the excellence of the teachers. I think that further teacher training in diversity or professional development would help meet the students' different needs. Again, the mental health support being more robust for students, and having also a diverse staff and a diverse group of counselors, a diverse board, a diverse teachers. I think that helps students feel the welcomeness and open environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Knight.
Yeah, I feel like I answered that a little bit in my last question, but I'd say back to the equity commitments of the district, making sure that everyone feels like they belong and that they have the chance to succeed in whatever they desire, whether that's I love taking tests, so I want high test scores, or I love helping other people and I'm going to work in a student-led program. During kind of my career, I've had the chance to mentor diverse leaders who are trying to get promotions, but also mentor military business leaders who are also trying to make their new way into a corporate world. I'd say what always seems to make the difference is if they walk in the door and you know their name. So really just making sure people feel like they belong and you know their name, I think makes a really, really big difference. I think our teachers do that so well every single day.
Thank you. Alicia Little.
Yeah, I think any way we can create a sense of community, and a lot of times that is the easiest to do at an individual school. And while we try to make our schools as commensurate across the board, it wouldn't matter if your student was going to this elementary or this, we know that every school has its own traditions and its own experiences and things that families look forward to. One thing I definitely found during my time on the PTA and just in volunteering is that a lot of times we would be meeting and I didn't really feel like it was a representative group that was coming up with this type of activities we were going to implement or the fun events we were going to have. So really dug into how can we get this information out to other families, how can we get them in the door so that they can share some of their ideas and let us know how things are going and what is their experience at the school. I also feel like Wayzata is a very high achieving and it's a very well-funded school district, but I want to make sure we're also thinking about that's not the case for every single student in our district, and I want to make sure that voice is represented too.
Thank you. All right. I'm now going to call on you for your 2-minute closing statements. And first, we're going to have Kate Knight, and then Laura Conway, and then Heidi Cater. Kate Knight.
Sure. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to share my thoughts and commitment to Wayzata schools. So I have extensive experience bringing groups together in complex environments with the goal of making progress. I listen, I take input, I use data to make strong decisions. In fact, I'll say this is exactly also how my family operates. While we all don't share the same views, some of us are deeply passionate about politics, others, like me, not so much. Even my husband and I have different perspectives and views, but we share values that we model every day for our children. The importance of listening, respecting differences, and critical thinking. We work together each and every day to make the best decisions possible. And I guess this is the same spirit that I'll bring to the board. Working together to ensure that we uphold academic excellence, supporting student well-being, and governing effectively to use our taxpayer resources wisely. Good governance builds communities, and when we all work together, we can create the best possible outcomes for Wayzata students. For these reasons, in this nonpartisan role, I've chosen not to take political or special interest group endorsements. I believe school board leaders must remain nonpartisan, collaborative, and focused on what's best for all of our students. So if you agree that our strong schools deserve strong leaders, I respectfully ask for your vote so I can bring a balanced approach to serve our schools and community. Thanks.
Thank you. Laura Conway.
When I think about why I'm running, it starts with why I'm here. I grew up in Minnesota, graduated from Mounds View High School, and went on to the University of Minnesota. Both my grandmother and my mother were teachers, so I know how hard they work. When it came time to start my family, there was only one place I wanted to be, and that was Wayzata, and I had to come here all the way from Texas because I was there. The district has such a strong reputation, and I wanted my kids to grow up here, surrounded by a community that values education, and we are so grateful to be living here. As I said earlier, when I was a young attorney and helped represent that deaf mother who lost her children after her partner took them across state lines, the core of that lesson for me was about fairness and opportunity, and that every life matters, and sometimes we need someone that will listen and then speak on our behalf. That's true in law, that was true in animal rescue, and it's true in education. Every child walks through the door with their own story. Some students need a little extra help. Some just need a teacher to believe in them. As a mom, I see that every day. Our kids depend on us to make thoughtful choices now that will shape their future. If you elect me, I will bring that same commitment here. Listen, support our teachers, fund the classroom, and put students at the center of every decision. Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum and giving the public an opportunity to engage with all of us tonight.
Thank you. Heidi Cater, and then Alicia Little and Melinda Sahoni.
There is so much exciting work ahead, and I'm ready to stay in it. We're going to be finding and hiring a new superintendent, shepherding what could be the largest bond referendum our district has ever seen, and maintaining a calm and steady hand through this transition. Additionally, I'll continue to work tirelessly on comprehensive safety for our schools, ensuring that our kids have access to healthy foods and eating regardless of what funding might look like, and growing that unified experience for both students and staff that's already underway. And mind you, all of this has to happen in the most intentional and steady way so that our teachers can continue guiding students to focus on their most important work, their academic and personal growth. Aside from the formalities I've mentioned, you all know that leadership matters, and I take that to heart. I've committed to understanding the system and how to impact progress and change where it's needed. I have my feet under me, and I've become very good at this role. I'm proud of how I lead, with heart, honesty, and putting what's best for kids first with every single decision, even on the days when it was hard and unpopular. I'm not influenced by any special interest groups that try. Instead, I listen to every voice with a very open mind so that our collective community voice can emerge. The landscape is getting hard with partisanship, but I'm firm on the fact that nonpartisanship is the best way to do this work, and it's been in our secret sauce for decades. It's critical to the foundation of a public education. Families who choose Wayzata are here for a reason. We love this district, and we continue to be a district of choice because of our commitment to academics and our results-driven attitude. I've invested so much over the past years, and I know that you've all invested in me. I don't take that for granted for 1 minute. Re-elect me, and let's keep going together. Thank you to my fellow candidates for engaging in this forum. It's one of the most important pieces of this democratic process.
Thank you. Alicia Little.
Why are you running for the school board? Is definitely the most common question I've received since filing for this election. My answer is never really exactly the same because there isn't just one reason. It might be because I finally listened to friends and family who've been telling me that my background and knowledge would be an asset. It might be because I've been an active part of advocating for my 3 Wayzata students now in 10th, 8th, and 6th grades and their classmates every chance I've had over the last decade. It's most likely because everywhere I look, I see people searching for community, for a purpose, for connection and support. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, it takes a village to raise good humans, and I firmly believe that our schools are making lifelong impacts. We are so fortunate to be a part of this district, and while we are doing many things right, I also think we can continue to improve. I would like to be a voice for special education and academic equity in our district, because meeting the needs of each and every student benefits the entire community. I hope to improve community engagement with our district. Everyone's heard me rave about the new podcast, Inside Wayzata. Shout out to Zach Nelson. And it's the perfect example of making information creative and accessible. It's also been an absolute pleasure to spend time with the high school students from Wayzata School Board Spotlight Group. Shout out to Ankita. And their insight and ideas are so valuable. Technology use in our schools is a continued area of interest to me. I want to make sure we're using technology to enhance rather than replace our multimodal learning opportunities, while also keeping students' emotional and social health a priority. Finally, the least exciting but very necessary piece of a successful school district is funding, and I'm ready to advocate for the support we need from our legislators. Ultimately, I want to make a difference, but I need your help to do so. Learn more about me at alicialittle.com, join me on Facebook, and take the time to vote tomorrow through November 4th. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you. Melinda Sahoni.
Oh, I get the last word, huh?
You get the last word.
All right. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, and thank you to all of you for watching tonight. Our public schools are the foundation of our community. They prepare the next generation not only with knowledge and skills, but also with the values of citizenship, responsibility, and respect. When our schools are strong, our entire community is strong. As a candidate, my commitment is simple: to put students first, to support teachers and staff, and to make responsible decisions that reflect the voices of families and community members. I believe in transparency, collaboration, and ensuring that every student, no matter their background, has the opportunity to succeed. I've heard from parents and teachers about the importance of class size in giving students the attention they deserve. Smaller classes, especially in the early grades, allow for personalized learning and stronger relationships. At the same time, I recognize our duty to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. That's why I support long-term, fiscally responsible planning that balances investments in class size with other priorities like teacher development, innovation, and mental health supports. Both my children are working in the education space, helping marginalized children get educated. Typically, children get inspired by parents. In my case, my children are my inspiration day in and day out. They graduated from Wayzata and had the good fortune to have a teacher who nurtured them and helped make them who they are today. My family owes a lot of gratitude to this teacher who went above and beyond, and that's why I believe so strongly in supporting our teachers. I'm running because I believe in the power of public education to change lives and open doors. I'm a forward thinker who understands the values of equal opportunities, better education, a diverse community, and fiscal responsibility. With your support, I will continue to work every day to ensure our schools prepare all students to thrive.
Thank you.
My name is Milind Sohoni, and I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a note, 1 minute is not enough time to finish your thoughts and give all the information that you want. So we appreciate the thoughtful answers given, but please take time to contact the candidates, speak to them afterward, reach out to them to have them answer if your question wasn't answered, or if you would like more information on the answers that they did give. Thank you also to our candidates. Before concluding the Wayzata School Board Candidate Forum, I have a few thank yous to give to those who made this forum possible. First, on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I want to thank the candidates for being part of the democratic process by running for office and being willing to serve our community. Audience, please join me in thanking them. Thank you also to the League of Women Voters volunteers, our audience here, and those viewing this event virtually for your participation in the candidate forum. Thank you to the Wayzata School District staff and the City of Plymouth for supporting this event. And finally, we wish to acknowledge and thank CCX Media for broadcasting live streaming, and recording tonight's forum. On-demand viewing can be accessed at lwvlmpa.org. For additional information, election information, we encourage you to visit vote411.org, the League of Women Voters award-winning one-stop shop where voters can register to vote, find their voting place, and learn how candidates stand on issues. Please vote in the November 4th election by absentee ballot or in person. Early in-person voting is already underway. Remember, your vote is your voice. LWV welcomes new members, both women and men, at lwvlmpa.org. Thank you and good night.